Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day and I'm CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, and we're specialist payroll and HR recruiters. Now, they say the quieter we are, the more we hear, and that listening is the secret to discovering the greatest of stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's fantastic guest. I'm welcoming Justine Riccomini, Head of Tax, Employment and Devolved Taxes at ICAS, to the show. You're involved on the employment taxes side at the moment. Why is that such an important subject? So how do we relate that to the world of payroll for those that perhaps aren't so familiar?
Well, people often hear me say, and they think I'm joking, but actually I'm really not. I say that employment taxes rules the world because actually the term employment taxes covers a multitude of sins, and it's often mistaken as being something simple and uncomplicated. Anybody who thinks that is definitely labouring under something of a rather large misapprehension. People say employment taxes, well, that's just payroll, isn't it? Which really annoys me because, for one thing, as all payroll professionals know, payroll is far from simple. Nor is it a backroom admin job, which is why the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals runs so many levels of qualification on the subject, ranging from like entry-level foundation and to postgraduate degree courses. So, in fact, employment taxes is a collective term for a reason, because it caters for any and every aspect of the life cycle of an employment. That could be from onboarding a new starter right through to life events such as apprenticeships and student contracts, immigration, emigration, maternity, coping with illness and bereavement, moving to another office, another country, getting promoted or working less hours, working from home, working anywhere in the world on the planet, as well as termination payments and retirement benefits. So there's a lot to it. So not only does employment tax cover all things payroll and related aspects such as earnings arrestments, student loans, parental leave, childcare arrangements, etc., which are each catered for separately, by the way, by separate pieces of legislation, which we all need to know and understand.
Sure.
But it also encompasses the enormously important and may I say, rather dangerous national minimum wage.
Do you think, just when it comes to mind, that payroll then is ready for a title change? Should we be thinking about including employment taxation into the world of payroll as a title, payroll and employee taxation manager, for example, or do we just accept that it's part of what payroll is?
I think there's two answers to that. First of all, I personally believe that payroll isn't a business service. I believe it's a tax service because there's so much involved in it that relates to taxation and the underlying legislation. Coming with that, there is also the consideration of a thing which has been really important recently called the professional conduct in relation to taxation. So if it's not a piece of legislation, it's actually a concept which is being championed, if you like, by several accountancy and taxation related institute bodies. And the way in which that is going is it's leaning towards having certain standards in requirements for people who actually work in tax and deliver tax advice. So there's a big question at the moment hanging over whether payroll is actually a tax advisory service or whether it's a different kind of service. And if it is a tax advisory service, and if we think about payrolling benefits, then that's probably something that we can relate to. Then if it is, it will be governed by PCRT, as it's known. So there's a lot of different considerations there with that.
So it's just a way of trying to get it into my mind, because it's evolving so quickly, and everyone always asks, where does it sit? And what, is it payroll and reward? Is it payroll and tax? Is it payroll now on its own? So it was great to get your thoughts on that. And I know that you were going to talk to me a little bit about PAYE, so I'll let you come back to that. But I was just intrigued to see how you saw it fit.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think, payroll and reward and tax are to me an inseparable cluster of things. If you know about one, then ideally you should know about the other.
Sure.
And that's where I come from. I think education's a great thing, and it's good to constantly be improving our knowledge and educating ourselves. So I guess sort of on the pay as you earn side of things, let's not forget that pay as you earn is a withholding of income tax by employers on employment earnings. And it's governed by a whole load of different regulations, including pay as you earn regulations, Income Tax Earnings and Pensions Act 2003, otherwise known as ITIPA, National Insurance Contributions, which is the UK's equivalent of Social Security, of course. It's not technically a tax as such, national insurance, but it is governed by the DWP under the Social Security Contributions and Benefits Act 1992. And in addition to that, there's all the legislation surrounding various types of benefits in kind, such as company cars, vans, fuel, private medical insurance, Christmas parties, etc. The benefits code, as it's technically known, is dealt with under ITIPA 2003 as well. So tied in with that, we've got different ways of taking employer-related benefits, such as salary sacrifice, which actually should really be called salary exchange, because that's what it is.
Sure.
No one or nothing is being sacrificed here, right? So
that's a good point. And actually, it's something that's very much in the when I look at the social forums, this is still an element, salary sacrifice, which payroll professionals still find confusing, and it's a challenging element. But it's interesting you say that. Yeah, it is much more of a salary exchange. If I think about how I've used it for cycle to work or whatever, that's exactly what it is.
Yes, absolutely. I remember I was a tax inspector a long time ago, and I used to visit people, and one of the questions on my questionnaire was, do you operate a salary sacrifice scheme? And if people had never heard of it, you used to see raised eyebrows all over the place, and people thinking, salary sacrifice? Who's sacrificing what? And also, if you're trying to get employees interested in the concept of sacrificing salary, perhaps to save a bit of national insurance on, salary sacrifice for pension or something.
Yeah.
Sacrificing salary is not an entirely conducive way to get people interested in the concept.
No, absolutely right. Salary exchange sounds. So do you know? I know with your research, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I don't want to put you on the spot. But do you know what the origins of why it's called what it is? Why it's called salary sacrifice?
It's a revenue term. It was originally invented by what was the Inland Revenue, now HMRC, but goodness only knows who came up with that particular phrase. I think it's a crazy phrase to use because it scares the living daylights out of people. I think we need an update. And I prefer salary exchange because you're basically exchanging salary for something in return.
That makes sense. And people can understand that, can't they? Actually, if I'm going to go a cycle to work scheme, I understand that's a salary exchange. That makes total sense. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. You're not giving anything up. You're just swapping something for something. So that's okay. So I guess, it's got more complicated along the years as well, because now we've got optional remuneration to consider as well. And, these things can reduce some tax and national insurance on the salary that's being exchanged for benefits.
Yeah.
Subject, of course, to certain exemptions and reliefs, or in some cases, help employees to get up to the next level of benefits up the scale, such as a better company car or family cover under a private medical insurance policy or something like that, depending on your lifestyle choices.
Does it cover anything else? So what about share schemes and expats, things like that? Does that also fall under the banner?
Well, apart from what people can earn directly through their pay, employment taxes, the term, also covers things like employment related securities, which is share schemes to thee and me sort of thing, which requires legal and tax expertise, and expat taxes, which are also known as global mobility taxes, people moving around geographically in the world to do their jobs, usually for multinational organizations. And of course, now we've got hybrid working as well. And a lot of people decided to go and live in Spain and work from Spain using their laptop, which creates its own set of little quirky difficulties. But any of the tax stuff that I've just rattled off can work on its own. It's joined at the hip with employment law and HR expertise as well. You can't do one without doing the other, really.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, and remember, every great conversation starts with great listening. Till next time.